Personal boundaries are the invisible threads that connect us to other people. But what if these threads are tangled in myths and misconceptions? Let's untangle this knot and gain clarity in our relationships. Today, we'll debunk the most common myths about personal boundaries.
Let's examine this. Selfishness is an excessive preoccupation with one's own needs at the expense of others, while setting boundaries involves balancing one's own needs with those of others. There's a prevailing notion that sacrificing one's time, efforts, and resources is acceptable. However, in reality, tending to one's own needs is an essential component of a healthy life. Boundaries aid in protecting oneself and one's resources, which ultimately enhances relationships rather than harming them, as clear boundaries establish a foundation for respectful and honest interactions. Saying "I can't talk right now, I'll call you back later" is preferable to pretending to listen while engaging in other activities. Stating "I need some personal time, so I can't come today" is more direct than saying "I don't want to go anywhere" or "I'm not sure" or "maybe next time." Expressing "I value your opinion, but I'll make my own decision." Communicating "I feel uncomfortable when you speak to me" in that tone is more effective than saying "stop yelling," or "you're annoying me," or "I won't tolerate this." Offering "I can't help you with that, but I can suggest another solution" is more candid than giving false hope.
When we ignore our boundaries, we risk burnout, feeling resentful and irritated. When our boundaries are violated, we feel disrespected and undervalued. This can lead to the accumulation of negative emotions such as resentment, anger, and irritation. These emotions, in turn, can affect our relationships with others and our overall well-being. Setting boundaries helps us maintain balance and harmony in life.
Boundaries are needed in all relationships, even with the closest and most beloved individuals. This helps to avoid misunderstandings, conflicts, and resentments. For example, a close friend may regularly call at inconvenient times, or a partner may use personal belongings without asking. Setting boundaries in such cases helps to maintain harmony in relationships. Imagine your close friend often calls you late at night when you're already preparing for bed. Instead of enduring discomfort or feeling resentful, you can say, "I really value our communication, but after 10 p.m. I usually wind down. Can we chat earlier?" Boundaries are needed in all relationships, even with the closest and most beloved individuals. This helps to avoid misunderstandings, conflicts, and resentments. For example, a close friend may regularly call at inconvenient times, or a partner may use personal belongings without asking. Setting boundaries in such cases helps to maintain harmony in relationships. Imagine your close friend often calls you late at night when you're already preparing for bed. Instead of enduring discomfort or feeling resentful, you can say, "I really value our communication, but after 10 p.m. I usually wind down. Can we chat earlier?"
Even the most loving people can accidentally cross our boundaries if they don't know where they are. Everyone has their own set of boundaries based on their experiences, values, and needs. What is considered acceptable for one person may be unacceptable for another. Assuming that other people should just know our boundaries often leads to disappointment and resentment. Clear and open communication is key to establishing and maintaining healthy boundaries.
In reality, boundaries can be set calmly and respectfully. It does not mean being aggressive or confrontational. Conflicts are more likely to arise when boundaries are violated, and a person feels infringed upon and unheard. Instead of exploding with irritation when a colleague once again shifts their work onto you, one can calmly state that while understanding the colleague's workload, one is currently occupied with their own tasks, suggesting a discussion on how to distribute the workload more evenly.
Clear and calm communication about one's boundaries helps to avoid misunderstandings and conflicts in the future. Clearly defining boundaries in advance reduces the likelihood that they will be violated. When people know what is expected of them, they are more likely to respect those expectations. This creates a foundation for healthy and respectful relationships.
Healthy relationships are based on mutual respect and understanding. People who truly love you will respect your boundaries. They will understand that boundaries are not a rejection of the relationship, but rather a way to preserve and strengthen it. Setting boundaries helps create more honest and open relationships. When you clearly define your boundaries, you give others the opportunity to better understand you and your needs. And people who don't respect your boundaries probably don't respect you either. If someone tries to ignore or violate your boundaries, it may be a sign that they don't value you as a person. In such cases, setting boundaries becomes necessary to protect your well-being.
If someone doesn't respect your boundaries, it can be a sign that the relationship is unhealthy. This can be a sign that the person doesn't value your feelings, needs, or personal space. Moreover, it can be an attempt to undermine your independence and autonomy. So do you really need this kind of communication?
On the contrary, boundaries can be flexible and change depending on the situation and relationship. They can and should adapt to different circumstances. For example, in close relationships, boundaries can be more flexible than in relationships with strangers. Also, boundaries can change over time as relationships develop and personal growth occurs. This is a normal process.
It's important to be flexible and willing to adjust your boundaries as needed, if only because your needs and priorities can change. And it's natural for your boundaries to reflect those changes. Below this video, you'll find a link to a course that will help you understand your boundaries and learn how to protect them. With this knowledge, you'll realize that healthy boundaries aren't walls. It's important to remember that boundaries are meant for protection, not isolation.
People often mistakenly believe that it's wrong to set boundaries with parents or close friends, that it's unfair or dishonest. For example, in many cultures and families, there's a belief that elders have the right to interfere in the lives of younger people, and that loved ones should always be ready to sacrifice their interests for others. This can manifest in the form of advice, criticism, control, or even emotional blackmail. But in reality, everyone has the right to set boundaries. It's your body, your life, your decisions.
It's important to be flexible and willing to adjust your boundaries as needed, if only because your needs and priorities can change. And it's natural for your boundaries to reflect those changes. Below this video, you'll find a link to a course that will help you understand your boundaries and learn how to protect them. With this knowledge, you'll realize that healthy boundaries aren't walls. It's important to remember that boundaries are meant for protection, not isolation.
Indeed, one of the most common mistakes in communication is expecting other people to read our minds and guess what we need or what is bothering us. In reality, people do not have telepathic abilities, and the only way to convey our needs and boundaries to them is to clearly and explicitly articulate them.
When we don't directly communicate our boundaries, we create fertile ground for misunderstandings. Other people might act based on their assumptions, which can differ significantly from our expectations. Clear communication helps avoid misunderstandings and resentment. Clearly defining boundaries is a sign of respect for yourself and others. It shows that we value our needs and are willing to talk about them openly. In healthy relationships, people feel comfortable expressing their needs and boundaries, knowing they will be heard and respected. How are your boundaries? Write in the comments. And don't forget to check the video description where you'll find a complete guide on setting and protecting personal boundaries.